Even though he roams free in the city, Barn doesn't feel well. He's always stressed and has problems in his head. He's always anxious and depressed, typical of contemporary society. Barnes didn't have many friends. In fact, nobody wanted to be friends with him, and he never knew why. His favorite pastime was exploring places he hadn't been to, and he did it very well. Barnes walked on the sand, always carrying a blue-covered book in his little bag. He wore black boots that made noises that made his presence felt wherever he went. Always wearing a black sweatshirt with a large skull printed on it and faded gray jeans, looking like a rebellious teenager. Barnes had a very possessive mother who deprived him of any kind of relationship. Even though he didn't depend on her for anything, his head was so weak that he didn't realize it. He was blind and totally manipulated. His mother once threw out a mistress, which she always used to say, and made her look ashamed in front of Barnes. "You're worthless. You do more than your duty." That was all he heard with anything positive he did. "I wish I'd aborted you." Barnes made his razor a less than pleasant job. His legs were always the victims of his adored mother's vile words. Each cut was like a sentence ripped from his tongue. Barnes never understood what it was all about. He never did her any harm, yet he was treated like a pauper. Barnes met a girl. She was everything you would call infamous. She said things to him, dark things that made for morbid desires. "Kill the bitch, set us free." Barnes explicitly wrote down everything he was going to consummate, detail by detail. The only thing missing was the opportunity. "Barnes, get some eggs for dinner." The day had finally arrived. Barnes was ready. He fetched the eggs from the hen house and put them on the table next to the fruit basket, preparing an abundant table for dinner. "Barnes, the bread could have been softer," the old woman exclaimed. But Barnes didn't mind. "I forgot something. I'll be right back." Barnes went to his room, and there he visualized the perfect scene. His mother had her back to him, was sitting in an old wooden chair. "We'll meet again" was playing in the background, and he had an appointment for later. He lurched forward, the wood creaked, and he consummated the act. He stabbed his mother deeply in the left side of her neck. The knife went completely into her windpipe. He withdrew the knife. The blood soaked his sweatshirt and his face. The old woman tried to scream but couldn't. Her eyes were wide, looking at her killer. He slammed her head against the table, throwing her face into her own plate, then took her life, stabbing her right in the middle of her skull. She was dead, and the knife was now part of her head, and her mother the decoration on that table. Barnes cracked a genuine smile. He loved doing that. The yellowish light reflected on her blood-stained face, which dripped from her cheek to her neck. Barnes had buried his mother in a shallow grave in his backyard, which was a lot more work than killing her. Barnes had buried his mother in a shallow grave in his backyard, which was a lot more work than killing her. What? Barnes hit something with the shovel, something strange. It looked like something rigid. He dug, and soon his mind was disturbed. His beloved who had given him the idea was dead and buried in his own yard. Barnes didn't really remember anything. It didn't make sense to him, but he remembered his book in which he wrote everything down. There he might have an answer. He opened the book, and the last page gives him nightmares to this day. "My son, you always forget, don't you? I read your diary every night.